Canada. We pride ourselves on being the champions of human rights and social justice. However, this has not been the case recently. Currently, Canada is facing multiple human rights violations that are continuously ignored. The Department of Indian Affairs and Northern Development released an assessment that found problems in the majority of First Nations water and sewage systems, with 39% of the systems having major deficiencies that potentially threaten human health and the environment. In June 2012, the government introduced substantive cuts to the Interim Federal Health Program, which covers the basic health care for refugees and asylum claimants. It is essential that individuals recognize the importance of their involvement in the continuous struggle for human rights in order to improve the protection of our rights and to ensure that they are being upheld by the government. Therefore, it is important to understand what social justice and human rights truly mean.
I think social justice has to do with having equity and equality for all citizens of Canada, no matter your race, creed, age, or gender. I think that's the overarching concept, and ensuring that having any one of those characteristics impact your social status, employment, or anything like that is not the case in Canada.
For me, it's a pretty simple thing. It's people with decent wages, access to healthcare, access to education, decent homes and housing, and food. Absolutely.
Social justice, I think the term almost defines itself. It has to do with the social welfare of humanity, of human beings, and how do we obtain justice for that whole segment of society for whom justice is difficultly achievable in our world today. So how do we provide justice for those people who don't get it very easily, whom we overlook, whom society enacts policies and legislation that cannot easily apply to the more unfortunate people in our society. But social justice also is something that has to apply to everyone in society, because you never know at what time that you might be on the other end of the equation, and that you will be finding that for somehow justice is not applying to you as well. So we have a saying in the union movement that an injury to one is an injury to all.
Human rights has been well defined by the world. It begins with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights back in 1948, and of course the multitude of treaties and principles and resolutions and declarations since. But that's the legal side of it. As a concept, what it is the set of very sacred promises that governments have made to their people as to what they cannot do and what they must do to ensure that people can live safely, can live in equality with each other, and can pursue the dignified lives that are essential to basic notions of human integrity. Of all the various chapters of national security legal reform we've had since September the 11th here in Canada, with the biggest one being right after September the 11th when the Anti-Terrorism Act was brought in, but there's been other reforms in the years since. There's no question that C-51 is the most disturbing and troubling assault on human rights we've seen. A very troubling aspect of the legislation that says that CSIS can go ahead and do things that would violate our Charter of Rights. One assumes that also means that would violate Canada's international human rights obligations, as long as they go to court and get a warrant giving them permission to do so. So we have the stunning proposition now of CSIS agents in law being authorized to commit charter violations as long as a judge has given them permission to do so, which is making judges complicit in human rights violations when in fact judges are meant to be the last bastion of ensuring that human rights violations don't happen and that the Charter is upheld. I think we have entered into the sorriest chapter ever when it comes to refugee protection in Canada. Domestically, over the last several years, What we've seen is a wave of law and policy reform that is vindictive and punitive and restrictive. I can't think of any domestic legal reform on the refugee front in the last few years that I am proud of as a Canadian, and that's a very sad thing to say. Human rights belong equally to all of us, and that whenever there are human rights violations, therefore, we are all, number one, diminished by those violations, but secondly, that as long as human rights continue to be violated anywhere by anyone, we all potentially remain at risk of having our rights violated someday as well.
Step 1. Find something that you enjoy and that motivates you. Step 2. Get involved. Research what options you have available to you based on what human rights issue you believe in. And step 3. Share and care. Spread the word on social media. Attend debates. Go to policymakers. Ask questions. Stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves.